Welcome to Wellness Radio with Dr. Jeanette-Gallagher as your host. Her show discusses topics of health, wellness, and spirituality, and is about discovering your place in this great universe, from your cells to the cosmos. Along with her guest, in casual conversation, she strives to ask the difficult questions that may be holding you back from a vibrant life, and shares new ideas that may inspire you to make a change in your life that you only can see in your dreams. And now, here is Dr. Jeanette-Gallagher.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Wellness Radio. This is Dr. Jeanette-Gallagher, and it's a pleasure to have you with us here this evening. Tonight, we're going to be talking about a journey through our body, its mechanisms of action, its times when it hits the wall, its times when it sits down and says, I'm not doing this anymore. Or perhaps a time when it says, I just can't make it another moment. What is this all about? Disease, illness, cancer, end of life, these times when we hit the wall. Is it time when we stop, we look at our body and we say, what's next? What's coming for us? What do we have to do? Do we need to shapeshift, make a change in our world, make a change in our life? Perhaps just say, this is the end. Be at peace and love and joy for every day. Every day is a gift, and we truly are not promised each and every day. Can we stop and say for a second, no matter what I have going on in my body, my thoughts, my mind, or my heart today, can we hold on and say, today is a gift, I will enjoy today? That's what we're going to be talking about today. What is the cancer journey? How can you see how it has shapeshifted your life? And perhaps also, too, to say, ooh, not me, but you know what? Maybe it is you. Today, my guest is William Laird. His book is Not Me, Cancer. William, thank you so much for joining us today. It's a pleasure to have you with us.
It's a pleasure to be with you, too, Dr. Jeanette.
I'm so glad to have you, William, because I think so many times, we see all of these books and they're written by women. Their stories, their journeys, the women comradeship, everybody rallying around to be able to help them. We all know the pink shirts. However, when a man has a cancer journey, very rarely do we see the story of his journey in words. Don't you think?
Well, I never really thought about it, but I felt obligated to tell my story in an effort to help others.
I think it's a really wonderful book, William, Not Me, Cancer, because really, William, what you did is you also shared who you were, what you were about, what you were going through, in all of the design. Everything is well designed in the way this book is written. Do you think perhaps, William, when it came to the very first time when you said you traveled cross-country and you felt like it was a kidney stone, you got this, you're good to go, you knew what it was, you knew what the therapy's treatments were, and you were going to fulfill a mission. Do you think that perhaps is how it all started?
I never really thought ever that I'd have cancer. But it happened, and just like other things in life, I felt like it was a journey that I was supposed to be on, and something that I was supposed to learn from, and something that I could help others with.
Absolutely, because I think, William, you were very frank about your discussions. Where did it come from? This is something that's going to be taken care of, and I'll be good to go. Did that perhaps the way you looked at cancer right from the get-go? Do you have a military background?
Yeah. I got run over by a car when I was a year and 8 months old, broke almost every bone in my body, was in the hospital for 6 months. Really a rough situation, and I think I learned something at a very early age, how to fight through things. And every obstacle that I've had in my life, I kind of approach it the same way.
Yeah. I think sometimes we say, life was never given to you as a perfect scenario from a very young age. Do you think that was the mantra you kind of took from that?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. You know, I think also, too, William, that sometimes people will say, but, oh, life is going to be a great thing. You know, I wrote on the top of the very first page, tough guy, tough cancer. Do you think you were always tough throughout your life?
I kind of had to be. You know, when I got run over by a car, I lost a thumb. So now I'm a young child with different than everybody else. You know, kids aren't very nice to each other.
Right.
And so it made me develop a tough skin. It made me learn how to deal with things from the outside, and I let things kind of roll off my back. And I look at it this way: you get a choice. If something bad happens, you can let it consume you and cause depression or other things, or you can move past it. And, you know, I'm a survivor. I push through things. And this cancer was nothing different than anything else in my life.
Right. Well, you know what also, too, you know, when you said about having pushing through things, and the cancer that you had, it is so rare. It definitely is something that hides and you don't even notice it. You know, an appendix is something that, you know, we as physicians, you know, it's small, it's tucked in the back. Nobody ever looks at it unless you come in and you're raging in pain and we're going like, well, maybe. Do you know what I mean? It's not something that's regularly screened, regularly checked, regularly tested, or even should have cancer. Do you think perhaps it was like, oh my gosh, kind of moment when you found out what it was about?
Well, I can tell you that, you know, I was surprised. But again, I didn't let it take me to a negative place. It's just another chapter of my life. Here's another journey that I need to go on. And I deal with things that way.
Yeah. And also, too, it says, how about the idea when there's other things going on and people have cancer, and you always think about yourself first. However, in your book, you also thought about the other people around you even more. You were watching things like, how is it affecting my wife? How is it affecting the people that I was supposed to finish this job for? How is it affecting how I'm going to be able to take care of myself and my animals? Versus being able to say, wow, this is something I need to sit down, have others help me. You still always would think about others, don't you think?
I've realized that more. As I reflect back, I think about others all the time. And I don't dwell on my own problems that deeply, but I do think about how it affects everybody. And also, I think about, what am I supposed to learn from this experience?
Right.
How can I help others with this experience? And I have helped others. I've actually saved lives.
Yeah. Because right in the beginning of the book, you know, you were talking about building a wheelchair, you know, something to be able to put a wheelchair in. And I wrote on the top of that page, finding a way. You always wanted to find a way so you could help and support others. Do you think that perhaps maybe when you were finding a way to help and you traveled to Minnesota, that it was important to be in Minnesota? Maybe, you know, you had to push yourself to get there, and reflecting back on the story, you say, but that doctor found something that maybe they might not have found where I lived. Or maybe I would not have gone to the hospital, or maybe I would have shrugged it off if I hadn't been pushed to that emergency time. Maybe?
Everything happens at the perfect timing. And I think this did too. Yes, it was unexpected. Came out of nowhere. I did complete putting the lift in, by the way.
Right.
But things happen in life. Not all things are good.
Yeah.
You can get sidelined at any time, at the least expected time. And it's how you go through those things that makes a difference.
Well, I think it's important, William, as you share your story, is that we are trying to reach men who perhaps are pushing themselves, and they'll say, I'll just go through it. I'm kind of like ignoring signs and symptoms. I'm not going to pay attention to it. I've got a job to do. I'll take care of myself another day. And that's very important that you perhaps say, I know my limits, and I'm at my limit and asking for help. How hard is it to be able to ask for help when you're at that position in your life?
I'll ask for help if I need it. Though I try to do a lot on my own.
Right.
And I think a lot of guys push through things, and there may have been some subtle signs on this cancer ahead of time, which, I did not think it was anything. The appendix ruptured at some point, and I believe I know when that happened. And it was a day that I probably should have gone to the emergency room, but I didn't.
Right.
If I had to do it over, I would have been at the emergency room. But, it happened. And, I've gone through so much. And my doctors, they call me amazing. They say, we haven't seen anybody like you. You push through things like we've never seen. You're breaking all the rules. And
right.
So they're learning something from me too.
Correct.
And all of that really inspired me to think, I need to write a book, because not everybody is me. Not everybody knows how to push through things. And if you got a second, I'll tell you a story. When I finished this book, it wasn't even published. I'm not an author, by the way. That's not what I do for a living. I've never written a book. But I thought this book was something that I had to do. And I wrote the book, and I got done with it, and I had it in a format that, I thought it was pretty good. And there was a gentleman at work that had a serious health problem. The name of his disease is like 10 words long, and I'm not even going to try to repeat it, but it was really a fatal disease. He was given 2 months to live by the doctors at Vanderbilt University Medical Center. And I said to myself, this book might help him, because I watched him. I knew he was getting worse every day. And it wasn't only physically. He was getting worse mentally.
Right.
So I gave him a copy of the book, and I didn't think he was much of a reader. But a week and a half later, I got a text back from him, and he said, "Thank God for you. If you thought you wrote this book to inspire people, just know you did for me." Now, he's alive now 22 months after, or 20 months after he was supposed to be passed away. He's still alive. And the doctors are amazed at what's happened to him. Actually, looks healthier than he's looked in probably the last 15 years. Yeah. So I know my story can impact others, and it has in this point. And that was my purpose, to take what I learned and what I experienced and show the way to others.
Yeah. You know, William, I think we've been given the book of life, you know, if you look back at it many decades ago. And we said, this is how you run it. You get a job, you have a white picket fence, you have a house, educated kids, and everything's good to go. And we all know about the ways to get that. In other words, there's kind of like, this is the template, this is the road you follow, and that's how you go there. However, when there's a disease or something wrong or cancer or a grief or loss or pain or suffering, there are no books that says, this is an example of how people have gone through it, but there is no template to follow to be able to get to the other side. You know, there's always these ways, and people will say, oh, but that's your story. I need you to hear my story. And I think that's what's so vitally important, is when you take all of these stories and you string them through, they're stories of finding support, finding unconditional love, asking questions, learning how to take care of yourself, learning to ask other people for help, learning to shut your life down and start a new life, or learning that life is a gift. These are the qualities you're learning through the process of having a different experience. Isn't that what many people who have cancer and life-ending diseases are finding these days? The greater story beyond the story?
I think so, and it's what I've learned in quite a few situations where people have a disease and you know, their life is threatened. That they look at life differently, than they ever have in their whole life, and it's interesting because I think if we could all look at life the way that people do when their life is threatened, we wouldn't have a problem in this world. I'll tell you, everybody it would be in the right place. But you can be threatened by a lot of situations in life, and they're not easy. But I think that the one thing that's so important is you got to stay tied to your hope and also your faith.
Yes.
And I can tell you that many times I've seen so many people, you can tell they do not have hope. You can see it on their face.
Yeah.
And I can tell you also that I have become, my new nickname, the arbiter of hope. Because people know I have gone through the worst of the worst. And if you looked at me, I look pretty healthy. I go to work every day. I run a multi-million-dollar company. Come home. I got a big farm I take care of, and life goes on.
Yeah. Do you think perhaps, William, is that, just as we shared in the beginning, is that people don't know what hope looks like? They know what success looks like because other people can see it and validate it. In other words, yes, you have a house, a car, whatever, you know, or your kids are smarter, or you're intelligent, or whatever that might be. But hope, faith, and just being in body They don't know what that really looks like because they haven't been pushed to that point. And then that begs the question, William, do we always have to be pushed to that point to be able to find out what it's like? Or just as you shared, you being the avatar for hope, perhaps you're saying, don't wait till you get to the end. Find it now.
Right. Hope is something that you have to believe in, and
yes.
There's many times that I see, like a typical, a lot of the times, a typical cancer diagnosis. Mm-hmm. The person gets hit with bad news. Mm-hmm. They go into the ditch mentally.
Yes.
And when they go into the ditch mentally, physically, they're affected because their mind is in the wrong place. Mm-hmm. And the other thing that I find is that even people that are Christian people, they sometimes forget about their faith. And part of that faith is hope. And people get so lost in the diagnosis that they go into a bad place. They can't get themselves out of it.
Yeah. Do you think potentially, William, that truly when I use the word hope, and I've used it so many times, as I work with patients at end of life time, is that we say that hope is I can breathe today and you live in the present moment. So really what you've come to is the fear of death no longer is something that you're going to be running from, or you have to put up a wall against, or you have to buy $1 trillion policy so that it'll never happen to you. Or you don't have to say, it can't come to me. Perhaps you have transitioned through many of what I call the shadows of death, but you realized, you know what? It is my journey, and you took away some of the fear. Is hope going through those journeys and no longer carrying the fear of death as your victimhood?
I don't have any fear of dying.
Right.
And I'm an intelligent man. Mm-hmm. And I know we're all going to come to our end at some point.
Yeah.
But I also believe that I'm going to fulfill my legacy. Mm-hmm. And I'm going to provide my story to others to try to put hope in others, because there are so many people that do not know how to do that for themselves.
Yes.
And so I'm an example. As you read in my book, I've had far more chemo treatments than most all people. And the doctors don't understand it because I'm doing great. Mm-hmm. I've had very, very evasive surgeries that were very difficult. And none of those things, well, I was going to say didn't slow me down. They did slow me down temporarily, but I always look beyond the present moment. And mm-hmm. I see my life where it's going. And I always see myself recovered and doing well. And you have to see yourself surviving.
Mm-hmm. You know what? A lot of times, though, William, patients will come to me and they will say, "Fix me," and then I'll say, "Well, what does that look like?" And it's they want to be reverted back. They want to be back like they were before the disease, before the cancer, before the treatments, before this, before that, And it's almost as if, well, we can't go back there, but how can you construct it, your mindset, your thoughts, your body going forward? Cancer does take away part of your body. your organs, your tissues. It does not leave your body in the perfection when you were born. We can't keep going back to try to make something perfect again because we feel slighted, or we feel like we're hiding of some way, or we don't want people to see all of this part of us. Don't you think perhaps the quest of, you share the word, going back to normal, you want things to be back to normal a lot, but it's, what is normal? Is normal being able to say, by the grace of God, I have breath today? Or is normal that I need to be in perfection like I was before? I think sometimes when people have cancer, just as you shared, some people are really stuck in their head, and they really can't get themselves out of that. Others, like yourself, find the hope and the grace, and they're able to move through. So do you think sometimes the body plays a real large part in you saying, is the body me, and it's going to be reflected upon negatively in the society? Or is it just going to be my war paint, and I got this, and I'm more than my body?
I mean, it's my war paint. I've been wearing my war paint since a year and a half years old.
Right.
I have scars on my body, and they're my life experiences. And, I don't look at it in any negative way.
Right.
Anything that you go through, whether it be cancer or even another disease, it'll affect you somehow. There'll be some remaining scars from whatever you went through. But it can't change your soul and your spirit unless you let it.
Right.
And that's where I'm, I guess, a little gifted. I keep my soul and my spirit in the right place.
Yeah. But also, too, that you're aware of that you are your soul and your spirit. Many people are totally disconnected from that, William. How many men and women in this world today don't even have that connection in their thoughts? I'm sure you've seen that, right?
Yeah, I'm pretty connected to my soul and my spirit, and and you talk about fear of death or whatever.
Right.
When I got run over by a car, I actually was killed momentarily, and I was out of my body for just a short period of time. And so the one thing is, I know there is something beyond this world. I have no fear. I have no fear at all. And I don't think cancer is going to take me out. Hopefully it's just old age. But I don't fear any thing about dying. And what I try to do every day in my life, whether cancer is going on or not, is I'm affecting a lot of people's lives. I run a business, and all those people count on me running that business the right way to ensure their livelihood. And I take it very serious. And, I try to be the best I can for everybody and make the most out of myself in this lifetime. You only got one time around here.
Right.
And when my life is finally over, I want people to feel like, boy, he really made a difference.
That's right.
And so, back to the book. I didn't write it for me to, I'm not an author, even though I think I did a decent job writing. I'm not an author, but I think I penned the right words that can be impactful to others. And, I am not doing this because I want to be a bestseller and, make $1 million off this book. I did this book because I want to help my fellow humans in this world. And I think I can with my story.
I think your book is so vital for any man to read, to be able to say, I too am going through a struggle. Can you give me some guidance? Because you share about the tests, about the prep work, about being in the hospital, about the recovery, what goes through your mind, but also what's going on in your body. Those are discussions that men just simply will not have because they just say, I'm embarrassed, I don't want to talk about it. It might show weakness, or perhaps, mine's going to be different. You just wait and see, that whole idea of control. And perhaps sometimes you just need to hear, can you just tell me your story on the side? And you almost feel like you're just collectively sitting on the side having a little conversation with someone saying, this is the way mine went. Tell me your story. That's what your book is, really an open venue. It's saying, share with me how you're feeling. Don't you think that this is a wonderful gift to give to any man that might be having any medical experience?
Yeah, I think so. And, I think the ability to communicate things like this that are not easy is really strength. It's not weakness. And I know where you're coming from. A lot of guys probably, bottle it up inside.
Right.
But I'm not afraid to talk about things and share things. And my testimony has helped so many people that, it's okay to talk about things, even if they're not easy things.
Yeah. Let's talk for a minute, William, about the idea of having to, as men are always strong and they kind of provide for everybody, and watching the other people around you struggle to be able to keep up, struggle with their own thoughts of death, of dying, of disease, struggling with their own addictions in life or their own life path. You kind of step back, and it's almost as if you're in a glass cage and you're watching this movie go on around you. But now you're not interacting with them. You're just observing. Don't you think that that's what disease does, is it sets you aside to say, I'm going to take care of myself, but wow, look at what I didn't notice before. And it's really bringing things forth for other people?
I agree. I mean, especially if you're in a situation where, you're having a tough fight in recovery, you see the best and worst come out in people. You really do.
Right.
And not all of it's pretty. And sometimes you just take it all in. And but you can't engage too much, because at the moment, your own survival is the most important thing.
Right.
So you can't engage too deeply on things. There's situations in the book, I air the good, the bad, and the ugly, and there's a lot of times that, I didn't have engagement over some things because that takes energy. And my energy needed to go to myself at that time for my own recovery. And so I wanted people to read the book and say, hey, this was written from the heart. This was a real story. And, and I hope it leaves something with people. That's a good thing.
Yeah. I think also, too, the idea there's many people in this world. I think it has a lot to do with our decades of life when we grew up. You and I have grown up in the 50s, 60s, 40s, 50s, 60s. And that's the way we were taught, as being young kids, we were taught to help, do things, fix, and support, learn how to fix things. Hey, your bike is broken. You'd best get your butt out there and figure it out. If it takes you a week, it takes you a week. There's no internet to say, or TikTok to say, this is the way to do it, So the idea is that we've learned how to get through things by the manner of getting through them. Get up every day, look everything in its face, see its value, march through, take what you've learned from that, and move on to the next day with a fresh new page. And I think that that's so vitally important, especially in a cancer journey, is that every day is a new page, versus you can't always plan out for the future the next 50 years, but you're also not going to say that I don't have many more years. You're going to say, but I'm here today. So really having the value and the gift of living in the present moment is something we all need to learn the lesson about, don't you think?
I agree. I agree with that wholeheartedly. And we did grow up in a different time, and you had to fend for yourself in a lot of ways.
Yes.
And I have my whole life. And as I said, my life experience, that's a whole nother book.
Right.
And it's really, people wouldn't believe it, but I've gone through a lot in my life. You don't see me complain. You don't even see me complain about cancer. I look at things differently. It's my life. This is the hand I was dealt, and I need to play the hand the best that I can.
Truly what I think, William, is that the gift that you've been given is your soul journey. You're opened up and you're awakened to it, and you know that you've been on a mission this whole life. So truly what your book is of service, and you've been in service your whole life. Just as I've shared on the radio show for over a decade, I've been in service my whole life also. And I think that you and I, being the forerunners of saying, life, flip the coin. If this is the only way you're always seeing it, you'll always see it and you'll always stay there. So for every situation, flip the coin. I have this, okay, I'll let go of the name, I'll be able to move through my day. I feel this today, I'm going to feel those emotions. I'm going to help and support others and guide them. We know our mission and our job, and your book is about knowing your mission and your job. Yes?
I think so, too. And it's interesting you said that. And I didn't really think about it that way until somebody else mentioned it to me, that your book is all about service and helping others. Right. And I really never looked at it that way. But after they brought it up, it was like, I think you're right. Right. And so I don't think that's such a bad thing to have as a character in your life. I think it's a good quality. Well, I think also, too, in closing, is that what we'd like to do is shine the light on everyone has a purpose and a mission in their life. Perhaps maybe they didn't realize that. They thought maybe it was about having a legacy, building an obituary, and making sure that you are validated and, attaboy on the back, kind of, so to speak, when that has nothing to do with it at all. That is just the outside validation. You and I are talking about the inside job. And this is how you get your world done, from the inside out. And that's what we're really talking about. And by being able to be in service, we are showing others what service looks like. Don't you think? I agree. And it's really trying to lead the way. Yes, yes. To be a leader. And just as you have on the cover of your book, Not Me Cancer, you have the lighthouse. You're the lighthouse. Shine the light. You're here to shine the light and say, this is what it is. This is what I see.
and I'll shine the light on. But also, too, I think, William, what we're not saying is we're not here to pick up people and rescue them. We are here to walk alongside of them so they can find their own way by listening to your stories or hearing our message. Yes?
Right. Yes. And I've already witnessed it take place with a few individuals, so never thought my words could ever be so powerful, but I know they can. And so my hope is to touch as many lives as possible and try to make a difference to a lot of people when maybe they can't themselves.
Yeah. Well, William, it was such a pleasure to have you with us here today. I think also, too, what you've really done is shine the light on the medical community. You know, I've had that similar situation. I would be like, I'm not going to the doctor. It's a waste of time. I am one. What's the point? But I would go, and it wasn't for me. It was for me to teach something to them. So I think sometimes when you're in service, you have to say, take off our labels of who or what we are and be in service to others by just our presence. And I think your book is a wonderful example of that. So we thank you so much for sharing that story with us.
Well, I thank you for your time and interest in talking with me.
It's wonderful to have you. William, can you share with the listeners how to find out more information about your work?
I have a website. It's www.notmecancer.com. There's also an Instagram account, Not Me Cancer, a Facebook account, Not Me Cancer, and there will be a YouTube channel as well. And what I plan to do, I'm hoping to get subscribers, and I will put out monthly newsletters and try to, keep good messaging coming out to people and having some impact on them.
Yes, because as we know, just as you shared with the show today with us, it's about being able to just breathe it in and let it go, and others will hear it by the vibration, by the message, by the inspiration, not necessarily our words telling them what to do, get out a piece of paper and go tell your doctor this, that, or the other. It's about being able to say what you need to feel, what you need to hear, what you need to sense today, and that's what we shared. So we thank you so much for sharing that vibration with us today.
Okay, thank you so much, Dr. Jeanette.
Thank you. If you'd like to find out more information about William Laird, again, the book is Not Me Cancer. Please do click on the link on the bottom of today's show page to go directly to his website for more information and follow him on social media. And it is about being able to say what's in my heart, what is in my soul, what is my struggle and pain today. Can I find others that will just share some inspiration or hope? And it doesn't have to be the words. I just have to have that feeling deep inside. That's when true healing begins. Thank you so much for joining us today. This is Dr. Jeanette-Gallagher. Until tomorrow, have a great day.
Today we discussed many life-changing concepts. Who do you turn to, and how do you know what is best when faced with a health crisis? Dr. Jeanette is a patient advocate. She listens to the patient, the doctors, and the family, clarifies the health issues and concerns, then helps the patient make the best choices going forward. If you would like help implementing change into your life and health, we can talk and see where you are stuck and how to improve the quality of your life. Check the link on the bottom of today's show page or visit dr-jeanette-gallagher.com to schedule a phone appointment today.